Morning, my name is Isabel. I'm a member of the Association for the Development of Health through Attention. Today, we'll explain part of our research in matter of understanding the causes of well-being and discomfort every person feels in everyday life. There are very few studies and programs that focus on prevention and promotion of mental and emotional health for people who do not have any pathology, but who feel conflicts or negative emotions, thoughts, attitudes that do not help to have peace in life, and that in certain cases become somatized in a form of pathologies of various kinds. Therefore, we have here with us Jaime Rojas, who is a doctor in science and also member of the association and responsible for this research I mentioned. With him, we are going to talk about this issue, and I can say that many of you have already collaborated with us in this research by filling out a test that forms part of the research. So thank you to all of you who have done it. In the first moment, we are going to ask Jaime some questions, and then we will answer a couple of questions that the audience has already sent us. Well, hello, Jaime. Welcome.
Hello, and hello to everyone watching us today. I'm very glad to be here.
Well, let's then begin with our first point. Would you highlight the context of the importance of human discomfort in this historic moment?
Sure. Well, to begin with, I would start by saying that, in my opinion, we're still cavemen and cavewomen. Relatively recently, in evolutionary terms, our ancestors used to roam the steppes and savannas naked in search for fruits, animals to feed and survive. May this put in perspective where we come from and what we are. Ever since we inhabited the caves, our lives and our environment have changed deeply and have become increasingly complex. In addition, the last approximately 150 years have seen a dizzying succession of social and technological changes. Immersed in this whirlwind of change, it is easy to lose perspective and forget that it is us who make the world what it is. While science has clearly contributed to technological and material progress, it seems that it has hardly contributed at all to psychological progress. According to recent research, we are increasingly narcissistic and increasingly individualistic. We are ever more concerned about ourselves. We are constantly competing and comparing ourselves with others to try to be better than others. On the other hand, we are struggling and trying to flee from our negative emotions and from every minimally unpleasant experience and situation, while we are in search for immediate pleasures. We often feel that we are not as we should be or as we would like to be. We have never consumed so many anxiolytics and antidepressants as we do in the present. a symptom that we are suffering immensely deep down. We often live life in an impulsive manner, distracted, lost in our own thoughts, while life escapes through our fingers. And this way of life is the cause of very deep suffering. In the light of these facts, I would like to ask the audience one question. What can one do? What can I do to contribute both individually and socially to a better society, to a more conscious, less violent, less suffering society? I will propose that most of our internal and external problems, from suffering to our environmental, economic, financial crisis, are in fact the manifestation of an underlying crisis, namely a crisis of consciousness, as it were. And that only by living attentively and consciously of what we are, of our reactions, of our emotions, of our motivations and intentions, of our thoughts and attitudes, only then can we change and be free of suffering and survive ourselves as a species.
Mm-hmm. And to delve deeper into the causes of well-being and discomfort, you are carrying out research, and you have also developed a test, very particular test, that should that with the aim of helping this regard. Tell us, according to your research and your criteria, what are your findings on the main factors that contribute to well-being or discomfort?
In our investigations, 4 factors stand out. The first one is our attitudes. Our attitudes toward the pleasant and unpleasant situations and experiences that we have to go through in daily life. For example, living in an unpleasant situation while complaining or playing the victim will make it more unpleasant than if we would relax and accept the situation. So attitudes really matter when it comes to well-being. The second factor is attachment. Attachment to my ideas about myself and about the world at large. And this attachment may become manifest in different ways. For example, in our addiction to be right, or through our tendency to compete with others to be better than them. The third factor is the degree of automatism with which we live in everyday situations. Probably most people in the audience will recognize the following situation. You get home, you take your key to open the door, and suddenly you realize, oh, how did I get here? What path did I take? I don't remember anything at all. I don't remember what I saw. I don't remember the path I took. This is a pretty common, very frequent experience. Another example could be the fact that we do habitual actions such as work and drive or eat without paying any attention at all to what we are doing. Finally, the fourth factor is thought. For example, when we do not stop thinking about our failures or about our regrets. And of course, when we do not stop thinking about our dreams and ambitions. Our preliminary research using the previous versions of the test suggests that about half of our suffering is due to ourselves, specifically to our own attitudes. In turn, we have also found that our attachments, our habits and automatisms, and our thoughts about ourselves also have a deep impact on how we feel and on our well-being and suffering. The most interesting thing about all of this is that all of these factors can be changed, can be modified voluntarily, intentionally by each of us, so that it is really in our hands to lead and to live a better life for ourselves and for those around us. And all the work of our association revolves around achieving that change. Our free online courses aim to help people learn to live by paying attention to their own reactions, their own attitudes, to their own habits and thoughts and feelings, because all of them have a huge impact on personal well-being.
Mm-hmm. Many professionals have really done research and on many aspects of the psychological conflicts, no?
Yes.
Why do you think it's necessary to go deeper?
Well, a lot of very good research has been done on partial aspects of what we are doing. For example, on the relation between habits and automatisms and well-being, or about the relation between attitudes and well-being, or between thoughts and well-being. So this is not new. What is new is that we are looking and investigating these factors simultaneously, at the same time. This has not been done before. And if you allow me to use a metaphor, I would like to say that science in general and psychology in particular have been very diligent when it comes to taking the microscope and looking very, very closely at a single isolated phenomenon to learn how it behaves. But it then forgets to remove the microscope and to step back to see how this phenomenon relates to the rest of the phenomena and to get the bigger picture. And this state of things has resulted in an accumulation of a lot of knowledge, yes, but a knowledge that is fundamentally partial, fragmented, and incomplete. Our aim is to understand how all of these factors behave together, because we suspect that these factors actually form a structure, and that understanding that structure will allow us to make a huge progress when it comes to health, mental health, and prevention.
Mm-hmm. And why did you think in developing a test? Does the purpose of the test relate to the causes of discomfort and well-being?
Exactly. The test is in fact just a small part of a bigger research that aims to shed light on the inner causes of well-being and suffering. And this test allows us to measure and quantify these factors and to test our hypothesis on whether these factors relate positively or negatively to well-being or suffering. In addition, we suspect that all of these factors, as I said before, form a pattern, and that it's that pattern, not any single isolated factor, but that pattern which explains why many of us are happy in spite of the circumstances, while others are unhappy in spite of the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And I have known that since the first version of the test has evolved. For what reason?
Well, the first version of the test saw the light at the end of 2015, 2 years ago. And today we have a fourth version of the test, which is the current version, and which was released just a week or two ago. The test has evolved because as our research has progressed, we have seen the need to make improvements in the test, such as changing some of the questions that people didn't seem to understand well. And also because of the need to add some new questions which help us to measure some factors that we didn't contemplate at the beginning of our research.
Okay, so now we have a brand new test, fully prepared. This is the version 4.
Yes.
And I want to ask you what is expected of it.
Well, I hope that we have formulated some of the questions that were already included in the previous versions of the test in a simpler language. In addition, we have included several new interesting questions, and in fact, we have included a whole new factor in this fourth version, which was not present in the third version of the test. And we believe that this test, because of the improvement, will produce very interesting results with regard to previous versions, but that we don't want to anticipate yet to those watching us today.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been asked, what do people get out of completing this test?
I think we get a lot out of it. I would say the most promising, the most important thing is that by completing the test, they are helping to generate a database that is necessary to understand how our attitudes, our habits, our thoughts relate to well-being and to suffering. And this knowledge will eventually revert to society, because it is an inherent part of our mission to make available all of these findings, once they are ready and published, to the general public, for people who have a personal interest in these issues, to people who are professionals, such as psychologists or teachers. And this knowledge will really help us build a better society, a more conscious, more healthy society, and hopefully a more promising future for all of us, especially for the coming generations. But all of this will only be possible if people help us generate this database by filling out the questionnaire. It's literally in their hands.
Well, okay, now let's answer some questions sent by the audience.
Sure.
The first one says, I have responded before to questionnaires on the internet where they give you an immediate answer. Is this the case?
Well, the participants will get feedback, but this feedback will not be personalized and immediate. The feedback will be obtained within a few months, probably 2 months or so, when the results are ready and the analysis of the data is ready for publication. Then what we will do is to publish those results and those conclusions in this Facebook page where people are watching us, and on the website of the association, so that people who feel curious about what their participation was used for can learn about what their participation has been used for. So we'll probably do another online session like today's to inform everyone interested about what we have discovered using this data.
Okay, the second one says, will the professionals who care for our health have access to the information generated by this research? Well, you spoke about this.
Yes, as I said before, one of the inherent missions of our association is to disseminate our research. And of course, one of the things that we want to do is to make available the results of our research, especially to those working in the educational sector or in the sector of health.
Mm-hmm. The third one says, I have answered some tests of this kind, even to previous versions of yours. What should I do when I'm not sure that I have understood the question correctly, or I'm not sure of my answer because I've never thought before about this topic?
This is that's a crucial question for us, because it affects what we call the validity of the answer of the participant. And what affects the validity of the answer of the participant affects the validity of the results and conclusions of our research. So it's a very important question, and I will try to make myself very clear. The first thing I would emphasize is that people should answer with in an honest way. The test is completely anonymous. We don't track and we don't register any kind of information, whether IP address or email address or anything whatsoever that might help us identify the participants. So the participants are completely anonymous and completely safe, and therefore I would encourage them to feel free to in a completely honest way, without twisting or distorting their felt answers. The second thing I would like to say is that people should answer with the very first thing that comes to mind. That's what we call a felt answer. It's generally pretty automatic, and sometimes after this answer comes to mind, we start thinking and rationalizing this question and trying to find a kind of theoretical answer of what it should be or what one would like it to be or whatever. And we are not interested in that kind of answers. We are interested in the answer that comes first to mind, the felt answers, as it were. So please answer with the very first thing that comes to mind. And I would like also to finish by saying that I think these questions and items are formulated in a very simple and direct language. And I don't think people will have any difficulty answering these questions. But if anyone who fills out the questionnaire later feels there is something weird or something they don't understand about this item or that item, then please email us and tell us you didn't understand whatever you didn't understand, because that helps us to continue to improve the test and the validity of the results.
Mhm. Okay, Jaime, we want to thank you for this few minutes talk about your research and the test associated with it. And I would, of course, take the opportunity to invite you everybody, to help us with the research and fill out our test. You will find the link here in this same page at Facebook. And please don't forget to pass it on to your relatives, friends, and everybody. And doesn't matter if you think those people are not interested in these issues, but this is not a reason for us. Everybody can answer the test, and all answers are completely valid, no wrong, no right. They are valid because they belong to a person, and if they are done sincerely, go ahead, do it, help us. So thanks very much, Jaime, again. Thanks everybody in advance for the cooperation, and have a nice day.
Goodbye, thanks.